The Roman Empire, at the height of its power, was an indomitable force, standing as one of the largest empires in history. It successfully repelled all military adversaries and established a complex administrative system that governed vast regions from Egypt to Spain, from England to modern-day Iraq. It seemed invincible, destined for eternal rule. However, today, it exists only as a distant memory. What led to the downfall of the Roman Empire? Was it vanquished by a formidable enemy? Did internal conflicts undo it? Or did it simply stretch itself too thin? The answer is not a single factor but rather a culmination of events that unfolded over several centuries. To unravel the truth behind the fall of the Roman Empire, we must trace its origins. Initially, Rome was a republic, with a significantly smaller territorial reach. The republic emerged after the downfall of a flawed monarchy, and its people yearned for a more unified government. Julius Caesar, a charismatic and capable leader, heeded their call. In the mid-1st century BCE, he seized power, assuming the role of perpetual dictator of Rome. Through military victories and popular support, he amassed considerable influence, refusing to relinquish his newfound authority. The elites of Rome, fearing the concentration of power in Caesar's hands, orchestrated his assassination. This event triggered one of the most significant political crises in Roman history. Civil wars erupted as various factions vied for control. Ultimately, Octavian, Caesar's adopted son, emerged as the victor. Continuing his father's legacy, Octavian expanded Rome's territories, including the conquest of Egypt, effectively ending its Hellenistic era. Soon, he wielded more power than Caesar ever had. The Roman Senate acknowledged his supremacy, granting him the title of Augustus and allowing him to rule indefinitely. The conspirators who sought to curtail Caesar's dictatorship inadvertently paved the way for Rome's first emperor. Little did they know that Octavian would be followed by others. From that point onward, Rome transformed into a monarchy, with a succession of hereditary rulers, some capable, others flawed, leading the empire. Rome's insatiable appetite for conquest extended its dominion across a significant portion of Europe, as well as parts of Asia and Africa. While Italy remained the heart of the empire, the conquered territories were organized into provinces, each governed by a local administrator with varying leadership approaches. The empire's vast size made it impossible for a single leader to exert full control over every region, resulting in a degree of provincial autonomy as long as they paid taxes and did not incite the emperor's wrath. Remarkably, this system worked, ushering in an era known as the Pax Romana for the next 2 centuries. However, beneath the veneer of stability, trouble brewed. In the 1st century CE, religious conflict simmered within the empire. The Roman state predominantly followed a polytheistic faith centered around the traditional pantheon led by Jupiter, intertwined with the Greek pantheon governed by Zeus. This polytheistic religion featured elaborate temples dedicated to individual gods and a rich mythology portraying the gods as capricious and human-like, prone to trivial disputes and vengeful acts. Then came Christianity. Emerging from the teachings of a Jewish rabbi named Jesus, Christianity posed a challenge to the established order. Initially persecuted, much like Judaism, this new Abrahamic faith quietly gained followers. The Roman Empire viewed these emerging religions as threats to its authority. However, eradicating religions is no easy task. The conflict between the established religion and Christianity remained largely concealed, as the latter was a small and relatively inconspicuous faith during its early years. A wise emperor would have prioritized maintaining the empire's stability over persecuting religious minorities. Unfortunately, the Roman Empire's fortunes took a turn in 177 CE when Commodus ascended to the throne. As the youngest emperor ever at the age of 15, he was ill-suited for leadership, guided by his erratic emotions and prone to recklessness. The perils of placing too much power in the hands of a teenage ruler became apparent. Inheriting an empire built by his predecessors, Commodus wreaked havoc within Rome itself. Known for his whimsical and autocratic style of governance, he indulged in gladiatorial spectacles in the Colosseum and even participated in deadly duels himself, expecting his opponents to submit to their demise silently. Commodus cultivated a cult of personality around himself, and his reign descended into chaos. In a twisted turn of fate, he met his demise when assassinated by a wrestler in the Roman baths after a 15-year reign. The Senate declared him a public enemy, dismantled his statues, and a new emperor ascended the throne, marking the beginning of the year of the five emperors in 193 CE. Civil war erupted, further plunging Rome's political climate into turmoil. Successive emperors rose and fell in quick succession, with some paying off the guards to secure their position, only to be ousted and executed shortly thereafter. The once mighty Rome found itself in a state of complete disarray, catching the attention of external observers. Many provinces within the Roman Empire had long enjoyed a measure of autonomy and developed their unique cultures. As Rome spiraled into chaos, these territories began to question their allegiance and consider formalizing their independence. Amidst a series of weak, erratic, and inconsequential emperors, the provinces started to break away at an increasing rate. The Gallic Empire declared its sovereignty, claiming vast territories encompassing present-day France and England. Subsequently, the Palmyrene Empire, led by Queen Zenobia, took control of Egypt and the eastern Mediterranean coast, including crucial sites in the Holy Land. This crisis posed the greatest threat to Rome throughout its history, yet it also brought about significant changes. A trio of emperors in the 3rd century managed to quell the crisis. Aurelian, who ruled for only 5 years, left an indelible mark on the empire. Despite facing attacks from barbarian tribes and internal strife, he repelled invading forces, reasserted control over the breakaway provinces, and fortified Rome with formidable walls. He also streamlined the empire by abandoning troublesome territories and revitalized its economy. Under his brief tenure, Rome experienced a resurgence reminiscent of its golden age. Aurelian's successors built upon his achievements. Diocletian, reigning for 2 decades, was also a military veteran. With the military situation relatively stable, he focused on enhancing the empire's stability. Diocletian established regional courts, strengthening centralized control over far-flung provinces. Although the empire had reclaimed lost territories, Diocletian initiated a new wave of expansion. Remarkably, he became the first Roman emperor to voluntarily abdicate, retiring to his palace. However, his successor would leave an even greater impact. The reign of Constantine the Great, spanning 31 years, proved to be one of the most prosperous periods in Roman history. Constantine introduced a new currency, expanded the empire's borders, and reorganized the military for greater effectiveness. However, his most significant transformation came in the form of his conversion to Christianity, reportedly inspired by a vision of a cross in the sky. As the emperor embraced Christianity, so did many of Rome's citizens, propelling the faith toward becoming a global religious force. At the end of Constantine's reign, the empire reached its territorial zenith, stretching as far east as Byzantium. Upon his death, Constantine bequeathed the empire to his sons, who immediately engaged in a bloody power struggle, once again destabilizing the empire. The decline of the Western Roman Empire continued throughout the 4th and 5th centuries. A combination of internal strife, external invasions, and economic instability eroded its foundations. The barbarian invasions, particularly by the Visigoths, Vandals, and Huns, inflicted severe damage upon Rome. The Visigoths sacked the city in 410 CE, a shocking event that shattered the perception of Rome's invincibility. The Huns, led by the formidable Attila, further weakened the empire. In 476 CE, the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed by Odoacer, a Germanic chieftain, marking the end of the Western Roman Empire. The fall of the Roman Empire was a complex and multifaceted process. It resulted from a combination of internal instability, external pressures, economic challenges, and military conflicts. The concentration of power in the hands of a few individuals, the erosion of traditional values, and the inability to effectively manage and govern such a vast empire all contributed to its demise. The Roman Empire's fall serves as a reminder of the fragility of even the most powerful empires and civilizations, emphasizing the importance of adaptability, wise leadership, and unity in the face of challenges. Though its physical presence has vanished, the legacy of the Roman Empire endures, shaping the world we inhabit today. In the year 337 CE, the death of Constantine marked a turning point for the Roman Empire. Despite his successful reign, trouble lurked beneath the surface. Constantine's adoption of Christianity granted the Church significant power in Rome, which drew support from many but also faced opposition from those who feared the empire would be dominated by Christianity. Dissidents were executed, and their estates were bestowed upon Constantine's favored allies. Although the military was well compensated, corruption among the soldiers became increasingly prevalent. However, the empire remained the preeminent global power, seemingly invulnerable to any challenges. Nevertheless, no empire is impervious to internal conflicts. Following Constantine's demise, a period of contention ensued as various contenders vied for the throne. Initially, his sons ruled jointly, but chaos ensued, plunging Rome into a civil war. Local leaders seized control of numerous territories, resulting in constant shifts of power based on military triumphs. Nonetheless, the core of the empire remained unchallenged, and by 379 CE, a new emperor named Theodosius ascended to power. A skilled military leader, he quelled the era of turmoil. However, greater threats loomed beyond Rome's borders. Despite the extensive reach of Rome's dominion, it was inconceivable that a nomadic people from a distant land would throw the empire into disarray. Yet, the Huns were no ordinary nomads. With their ferocity as warriors, they had been progressively encroaching upon Asia and Eastern Europe, causing people to flee in their wake. As the Huns seized vast territories, Gothic tribes sought refuge within the Roman Empire. Suddenly, Rome faced an enormous influx of barbarian warriors crossing its borders. Unfortunately, due to the inept management of border states, the corrupt local officials exploited the situation, naively assuming that the newcomers posed no threat. They would soon discover their grave error. Rome now found itself with a significant number of foreign warriors within its borders. These disillusioned guests, having experienced the lack of Roman hospitality, swiftly took up arms. They joined forces with other tribesmen, and what initially began as a refugee crisis quickly transformed into a guerrilla war. Although Rome possessed a superior military force, it was thinly spread and concentrated primarily in cities. Consequently, the forces dispatched to confront the Goths encountered unexpectedly fierce resistance. While the elites within the walled cities felt little impact from this crisis, the Goths swiftly gained territory across the Balkans, displacing former Roman subjects. Regrettably, Theodosius paid insufficient attention to this burgeoning problem. Although he made some efforts to reinforce Rome's military, the treasury remained depleted after decades of patronage under his predecessors. To confront the barbarian threat, he resorted to raising taxes, which, in turn, led to rebellions among the populace. Additionally, he intensified his crackdown on other faiths, reinforcing Constantine's embrace of Christianity and persecuting adherents of other Christian sects. Consequently, he faced rebellions in the West, with Magnus Maximus proclaiming himself emperor in 383 and seizing control of Gaul. These events resulted in significant territorial and military losses until Maximus's failed attempt to overthrow Rome in 388, culminating in his defeat. Rome once again emerged as the preeminent global power. However, this state of affairs would soon change. By 395 CE, Theodosius I passed away, leaving behind a weakened army and no clear successor. His two sons each claimed the empire, but neither possessed the capabilities of effective leadership, allowing their ministers to assume control. Rather than subject the empire to another brutal civil war shortly after the previous one, the two halves of the empire opted to pursue separate paths. Arcadius became the emperor of the Eastern Roman Empire, which would later be known as the Byzantine Empire, while Honorius took control of the western part, including Rome itself. This marked the most significant territorial loss for Rome, and there was no turning back this time. The Byzantine Empire would endure, establishing its power base in Constantinople and lasting for another 1,000 years, albeit without achieving the same world-defining status as the Roman Empire. As for Rome, it still maintained dominion over much of Europe, but its days were numbered. With the reduction in territory resulting from the division with the Byzantines, governing the empire became more manageable. However, it also rendered the massive barbarian invasions harder to control. Attila, the leader of the Huns, emerged as one of history's most feared military commanders, focusing his attention on Rome. The Roman Empire faced a gradual erosion of power. Over the next 80 years, the empire weathered relentless attacks from the Huns on its fringes and the Gothic population throughout its territories. The Roman military, but a shadow of its former self, frequently found itself in retreat. Piece by piece, the empire's territory diminished, and Rome began to resemble a declining city rather than a mighty empire. While some leaders managed to restore some strength to the military, none could muster enough force to reclaim significant amounts of lost territory. Eventually, in 476 CE, an ambitious king seized the opportunity to deliver the final blow to Rome. In the annals of history, there exists an oft-overlooked figure named Odoacer, who may have wielded profound influence despite being largely forgotten. He played a pivotal role in the final days of the Roman Empire, particularly during the reign of Romulus Augustulus, a mere 16-year-old boy when Odoacer invaded. Astonishingly, the barbarian king treated the young ruler with unexpected kindness, accepting his surrender and sparing his life as he sacked Rome. Odoacer, in an unexpected twist, sent the young king away to live with relatives, even providing him with a pension, before assuming the mantle of ruler over Italy. It was an extraordinary turn of events, akin to a teenager being abruptly dismissed from their very first job. However, the question remains, was the Roman Empire truly over at this point? The answer hinges on how one defines its existence, for Odoacer now governed the remnants of the empire, albeit as a foreign occupier. The Roman Senate, refusing to acknowledge him as a legitimate Roman ruler, transferred the seal of Rome to the Eastern Empire. And so, the greatest empire in human history transitioned into the realm of legend. Or did it? While the Roman Empire as a governmental entity ceased to exist, its most significant institution endured, the Roman Catholic Church. Although relatively young at the time, having existed for less than 5 centuries, the Church rapidly expanded its influence, taking root across much of Europe. As the Church grew in prominence, so too did its power. For nearly a millennium, it became the de facto government in many parts of Europe, with even kings acknowledging its authority. Few dared to challenge the Pope's supremacy, except for Henry VIII, who established his own religion after the Church denied him a divorce. Thus, while the Roman Empire no longer held dominion over Europe, its legacy endured through the Church. However, what led to the actual fall of the empire? The collapse of the Roman Empire cannot be attributed to a single cause. Rather, it resulted from a combination of numerous factors, with the disintegration of its military playing a significant role. Rome's army, once renowned as the most formidable in the world, had attracted the best soldiers through generous compensation. However, as the empire's coffers depleted, the recruitment of new troops became increasingly challenging. Emperors resorted to enlisting foreign mercenaries, lacking the skills and loyalty of their predecessors. Many of these mercenaries even hailed from the very armies the Romans fought against, further diminishing the effectiveness of their military forces. Attempts to compensate for the lack of qualified personnel only exacerbated the problem. Numerous emperors consistently overspent on military endeavors, yet such lavish expenditures failed to improve management. The vast expanse of the empire made effective communication an arduous task, with important policy changes taking weeks or even months to disseminate. As the empire expanded, this issue became increasingly problematic, ultimately leading to a greater focus on protecting key cities rather than effectively governing the entire territory. Within the confines of Rome itself, the situation was no less dire. A critical challenge that plagued Rome in its final days was the absence of strong leadership, extending to the very top echelons of power. Occupying the position of Roman emperor was no enviable task. Given that the position was essentially bestowed, accompanied by near-limitless authority, numerous individuals coveted it, often at great risk. Between the 2nd and 3rd centuries, more than 20 men held the title in a span of just 75 years, and their dismissal from office typically involved a blade between their ribs. Julius Caesar had set a trend, it seems. Even when an emperor managed to cling to power for an extended period, the empire often transformed into their personal patronage network, with allies appointed to influential positions. The Praetorian Guard, the emperor's bodyguards, would frequently take matters into their own hands, assassinating emperors deemed more trouble than they were worth. With such a volatile government structure, the decline of the empire should come as no surprise. These myriad factors coalesced, spelling the demise of the Roman Empire. For centuries, the empire had reigned supreme on the military front. Their expeditions encountered minimal resistance, enabling them to effortlessly conquer territories and establish Roman rule. Subjugated regions often benefited from improved infrastructure, enhancing their quality of life. The army effectively served as the enforcement arm of the Roman government, but it grew increasingly ill-prepared to handle major military conflicts. Thus, when external forces like the Goths sought entry after being displaced by the Huns, the Roman military lacked the strength to defend its borders. This failure hinged on a fatal mistake: the Romans neither aggressively repelled the Gothic invaders nor welcomed them into the empire to harness their potential. Instead, they exploited the Goths, hiring them without cultivating loyalty. Consequently, constant civil wars, minor military skirmishes, and growing tensions eroded the empire's strength, resulting in a gradual loss of territory. All of this could have been averted had the empire coordinated a more effective response to the Goths seeking refuge within its borders.